Are we good? Anyway, I was just thinking, you can't take away if somebody's funny or not. You can't take away if somebody's funny. Like somebody was saying that they don't like Chris D'Elia because he's not funny. They say, I want to let him work here because he's not funny, not because he did anything wrong in his personal life. I don't know none about that. I don't care about that. BS, hearsay, none of that, whistle. But it's just that everybody I talk to that knows about comedy, they say that he ain't funny, so that's why he don't work here in my town. That's why I don't mess with that guy, Chris D'Elia. You can't take away the fact that he is indeed funny. I'm just using him as an example. Like, you might hate somebody later on. Oh, you decided that he's not funny because he did something that became unwise or unpopular. He was funny before he was anything. Before he was anything, he was funny. I'm using him as an example because he's a famous example that you might have heard of. I was thinking about myself, about how, like, you know what? It's pretty undeniable that I was funny to these people. Some people that would be like, oh, I don't mess with that guy. But they definitely would at least admit that back in the day, they thought I was funny if they were being honest to themselves. So you can't take away that somebody was funny. At one point in their lives, they were funny. That's like a thing that you just can't take away. You could take away everything else. You could take away their reputation, their money, their whatever, their kids from a man. But you can't take away what if he was funny or not. You can't take away what if he was that. That's the one asset that you can't. Look at his shit. Back to D'Elia. D'Elia, people they say that for him. They go, he's not funny. That guy, well, why do you think he got so popular then if he wasn't funny to anybody? But even in the comedy circle, that's where I think he's funny. But people in the comedy circle, they're the ones who have this elitist attitude about him in particular of like, no, he's not a real stand-up or something. But look at his shit on YouTube from like 12 years ago. Look at his shit on YouTube from 12 years ago. Before he was known, he was just a comic. He was just an unknown comic on YouTube. And it was hilarious. He did crowd work with an Asian guy. He's like, that's so Asian. And then okay, maybe it's not for everybody, but I was like, this guy's pretty funny. When I first saw it, I was like, this guy's funny. Like I was like, I was like a fan instantly of that guy, Chris D'Elia. His onstage persona. But I could get where they're coming from now that I've aged a little bit. Now that I'm a little more mature, Yeah, maybe maybe he's not funny. Hey, no, he's still funny. I think he's still funny. I saw him. Because once you have it, you don't really lose funny. You might stop deciding to be funny, but or you just get crippled in some way. Maybe you just lose it. I don't know. But he's still funny. And you can't take that away. Cosby, he's still funny. I don't know about we, but I wanted to hear from him when he was going through that thing where he got dethroned from when he got accused of all these things. That's all just hearsay. It's none of my it's none of my business. It's it's creepy, I guess, but when he was going through all that shit, I wanted to know what his take on it was. Because he's funny, and you don't really lose your funniness. It's just harder for you to kind of accept that he's being funny, I guess, because of what he does in his spare time. Okay, that tarnishes it a little bit, because then you feel like, whoa, it's the same guy who did this, who's cracking these jokes, and it's like, is it funny knowing what he does? Well, I think so. It just depends on the bit. Just depends on the joke itself, because the jokes that he's famous for had nothing to do, okay, except for a couple, had nothing to do with what he was in trouble for, except for one that's not that famous, the Spanish Fly. That wasn't like a famous bit, but of course he joked about it, and it was kind of funny from the point of view of a human male to be like, yeah, you just give him this thing and it makes him, the way he did it, it was just like a throwaway bit, but like, of course that it was funny. Like it was funny, cause he's funny. So that's why anyway, the point is, you can't take that away from somebody if they're funny or not. You could spoil their reputation in every other way, but if they're funny, they're always going to have a reputation for being funny. I mean, or at least, reputation. That's, in my, they will in some small way. Some fraction of the people that talk about them will be like, well, he is funny, even if the majority say, like, people who know what they're talking about will say, oh yeah, that guy was funny, even though he's in jail for the worst crimes of humanity. Like, even if Hitler was funny, was he funny? No, he wasn't funny. He wasn't he wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't like Trump, where in his speeches he would have time to crack It was a different time. He was trying to actually get things done, like, today. Like, he actually come on, time is ticking. We got until 1945. That's when the war is ending. So he had this runway leading up to that year. It's like, either this happens or it doesn't. So that's why he didn't have time in his speeches to be like, oh, man, like, he didn't have time to make fun of the opposition, because there wasn't any opposition, first of all. There wasn't really any opposition, because that's what fascism kind of is. But Trump, he's not a fascist. That's why he has time to talk about his opponents. There's a schedule. November, there's a schedule. But it's not fascism where it's like, okay, we make up the rules. When are we doing this? They had so that's why he cracks jokes. But anyway, Hitler, the point is, though, if he was funny, he would be known as funny. It doesn't matter. Like, we know he was an artist. We know that his art was not what he's mainly known for, and we know that because it wasn't that good. If it was really good, we would have known him as an artist more than for his art to supersede his awareness as a dictator, for his work as a dictator, for his art to, like, be more famous than his dictation work, it would have to be, like, mind-blowing. Like, to get his art to be more substantial than killing hundreds of, like, a huge number of people, whether it's 6 million or however, like, his art would have to be, like, better than Picasso's, and, like, you can't get better than Picasso. There's certain artists that once you hit that level, there's no getting better. Like, oh, I'm better than Picasso. Picasso's like, he's an 8 out of 10. I'm a 10 out of 10. No, Picasso he set the standard. He was the top of the scale because he was Picasso. Some art is just so mind-blowingly good that it's fully developed. There's nothing you could do to, like, make it, like, you look at a work of Picasso, like, oh, you should have added a line. You should have added a dash of yellow there, and then it'd be 10 out of 10. It's only 9.8. This Picasso is only a 9.8. He should have added a zigzag there. Like, no, it wouldn't. It's a masterpiece because it's a perfect piece of art the way it is. Not everything he did was a masterpiece, so I guess you could say, oh, even though it's a Picasso or whatever, it's not his best. It's like, that's not the point, though. Him as an artist has reached the highest level you could possibly reach. Like, his hits, look at his greatest, judge him by his greatest hits as an artist. Like, what do you think of when you think of great artists? You think of their best shit, like that Andy Warhol, you think of the soup cans or the Marilyn Monroe. That's what hits my brain. The soup cans, and that's also, he couldn't get any better than that. Like, what's better than that? I don't know. I can't think of nothing from that era. So that means it was the best. For me to remember it. Anyway, another thing. So for Hitler to be known for his art, it would have to be a little better. Because we don't really think of his art as anything special. He didn't invent a new thing. Art is so hard to be good at. To be great at. Because there's only a handful that we even have the space in our minds. So for Hitler to be like the next Picasso, he would have had to be the next Picasso. So he wouldn't have had to be a dictator because he would have been so influential just as an artist that... I mean, that's the thing. Once you hit it big as something, you don't really need to, like, that's it. There's never been like somebody to be good at two things, to be great at two things. There's a huge difference between good and great in art. Kanye obviously is who I was just thinking of, because he's trying to be the next big dictator. And like, dude, you already hit it big as an artist. You're already the next big thing as an artist. You're great as an artist. You can't also be a dictator. You got to pick a lane. You know, like he's trying, but there's not that many. He's not like Leonardo da Vinci. He was more than one thing, I guess, but he's really only known as the dude who painted the chick, who painted that woman. He's only known as the Last Supper guy, as a painter. He was good at other stuff. But anyway, the point is, Hitler, his art wasn't that good, and it was okay. It was pretty good. We would look at it, and be like, oh, I couldn't do that. But then you find out more details. They're like, oh, he went to school for oh, yeah, that's not that good then. And then you find out other things about him like that. I don't know what else you need to know. It's not that good. It's like, we judge it. We don't care who painted it. We judge it only by the end product. Like, that's what art is. We don't care about the background of who painted it, if you're middle class, upper class, if you killed 1,000 million people, whatever. We don't care about that. The art itself just wasn't that good. So anyway, he was an artist. His speaking skills were phenomenal. He was the next big thing when it comes to like speech giving, but he didn't have time to joke around because it was fascism. That's the game he was playing. Like he was pretty, he was good at that. He was good at fascism. Let's be honest. If you're playing the game of fascism, he knocked it out of the park. He knocked it out of the park. If Trump's playing that game, if he's playing fascism, he's not really doing that good a job. His style doesn't even compete even close with Nazi regalia, with the whole aesthetic his shit, just that red hat, that is the ugliest thing. If it was like, the only reason people wear it is because it's a political statement. It's the ugliest piece of artwork. Has just block letters on it. It's just triggering. Make America great again. Oh, look at me! I'm wearing a hat that says that I want America to go back to the 50s or whatever. Oh, I'm one of those. It's just a political statement. It's a horrible fashion statement. It's the worst fashion statement. It's out of style. It's so out of style that it's kind of in style. To wear a MAGA hat now, people would just be like, really? Kind of like in 2016, whenever it was kind of laughing at it. It's like, really? You think that's going to work? You think that guy has a chance? So even back then, it was kind of, most people were just wearing it ironically. I mean, come on. I went to his website in 2016, and I read, the website was set up as if it was in a movie to mock the bad guy running for president, like as if he was the evil character in a movie, and they set up a website. This is what the website was in a movie, in a big. It was laughable. Just the layout, the color scheme, and the way it was designed was like outdated, but so it was just fake. It just looked like a fake website. And then I read about all the issues and how he's gonna make everything. It's like it just came off as fantasy. And then he won, and I was like, whoa, that seems like an error. That seems like a mistake that he won. It's like, what happened? People like, it couldn't be that people actually, that he was like popular. He wasn't popular. He was only popular on this fringe part of the internet. And turns out those guys, they actually go to the polls too. They actually vote, and they actually exist in a pretty big number. There's actually a lot of people that did like him in 2016, and that I guess still think the same way. They haven't changed at all the way they think. They might not be voting for him. They might be voting for DeSantis. I don't think he has a bat chance in hell for winning this time, because he didn't in 2016. Same thing. It would be a shock, 2020 felt like the only time he was supposed to win. People were kind of like bracing themselves for him to win. Didn't happen. So it's probably not going to happen this time. So if it does, it'll be a shock to humanity. But anyway, he's a good speech giver as well. And he can improvise. He's got time. He's terrible at fascism. He's playing the democracy game. Even in democracy, there's always going to be like, those votes, where do they come from? Like, you always got to, capitalism allows for suspicion and like, there's always going to be that. Because there's no such thing as like pure... There's no such thing as not fascism, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, basically, fascism is what we all kind of want. We all kind of want it. So for it to not exist completely, there's no such thing as like bleach for that. You can't just spray Lysol all over the voting system and expect it to get all the fascism, like every drop of fascism. That's just not the world we live in. So when there's people that put on those other hats, those other red, whatever, black, those anti-fascists, they're trying to be like the raid, they're trying to like clean up the fascism. It's like, there's a way to go about that. If you're doing it with violence and lighting things on fire, that's only going to make the fascism better and stronger, because fascism actually, as much as people don't like it, one of the benefits is it keeps people like that from burning down the cities, because we could just that's not allowed in fascism. So they're kind of preaching to the wrong choir. Like, if they want fascism to be eradicated, don't do things that make us want more fascism. Don't cause chaos. You're going about it the most backwards way imaginable. Okay, so we want people to not want organization. Like, we want people to not want that. We don't want people to want law and order, so let's cause chaos. Let's show them what it's like to not have the thing they want. That'll make them not want the thing they already want. So that's a stupid way to do it. You could do a protest, but it's gotta be peaceful. Because the second it's even a little bit not peaceful, that would give us a reason to want fascism, even just a tiny. Because fascism, as much as people don't like it, one of the perks of it is the law and order side is pretty good under fascism rule. A lot of law and order. Anyway, can I move on? So if you're funny, you're funny, is what I'm saying. You can't take away funny. Funny and fascism don't really go, they don't really go together. Fascism's all about law, order, one party, loving everything the way it is, status quo. We all, wear the same uniform, and we don't like other countries. Like, get out of here. Get out of our airspace. There could be funny inside of that bubble. There's sure. But We don't know because I don't live in a. I don't know. I wouldn't know. Is this a fascist country? If it is, it's a shitty one. They should make. It's hard. Like, pick a lane. So I don't know if fascism's a good place. I think I'm just going because some people would say that this shit is kind of like a fascist country. So if it is, first of all, it's not very clear to me if it is or not. Why do they say what it isn't then on the brochure? Why do they say, like, on the receipt, on the terms and service of the country, that it's not that? If it is that, I feel like they should be transparent with the citizens. So first of all, that's the first thing that they're getting wrong. Fascism usually isn't like questionable. Like, what is this? Like, fascism is where you know what the hell it is. It's like it tells you way before you even live in the country. You know, oh, that's a fascist country. Stay out of there. Or you're already in it and you're happy because it's like, hey, well, I'm in the bubble, I'm protected, and there's law and order, and like, okay, I don't know. That's just, you can still thrive in fascism as an individual. So anyway, is this country fascist? If it is, it's very not obvious. So that's the first problem I have with that statement. And second of all, if it is, why are you here? Get out. You're free to leave. You're free to leave. We don't have laws against not immigrating here. Like, we don't have laws against not living here. We have laws against living here. We have laws about how you conduct yourself while you're here, and if you want to come here, there's laws against that. But there's not really any laws against leaving. Like, they'll just be like, okay, well, you can't come back. You can't pretend you live here then. You can't call yourself an American then. But if you're just doing it, like, without making it, like, official, you can just leave and no one gives a crap. It's beautiful. And then if you come back, as long as you got a passport, it's pretty easy. Anyway, so that doesn't sound like fascism to me. If you just slip in and slip out, there's loose borders. You could just get in a submarine, build a submarine rather. Those are tough. That's usually for narcos people. And that's like a way different. I'm not even talking about importing drugs. I'm talking about just coming here as an individual. It's not that hard. If you came here on a submarine, and you're not using it to import drugs, I would recommend not doing it that way because you'll have bigger issues. You'll have bigger issues than if you're just coming here as a, what do they call them? Free birds? What do they call those free birds? See, birds could just go wherever the hell they want. Refugees. If you're a refugee, you're coming here from a terrible country that failed at whatever they were doing. Who the hell knows what they were trying to do at that whatever country they were coming from that happened to fail. If you're listening, don't do it the way that drug narcos people do, whatever, people that import. Don't do it the way they do because they'll suspect that you're doing something way worse than just coming here. Because if you just are coming here, just as a person, as an individual, maybe a family, maybe you have a family, youngins, and you're literally not even like, you're just a dude and a family, and you just want to come here, and you're not even like that much of a criminal. Like, okay, you have a little bit of a rap sheet, but whoopee, nothing like heinous. Like, you're just like, okay, you sold a little bit of drugs to get by. That's not, or you killed somebody because you're in a gang. That's not really a crime in that country. So for us, we care about like real crimes, like killing an American, like hurting an American on our grounds, on our, soil. If you just kill, if you're in a gang, you kill a few people because you're in a gang in, some Latin country, and you have tattoos, but you have a family, and you're just here to escape all that as a refugee. Big whoop. And you're not quite the leader of a cartel. Like maybe you kind of work for the leader of a cartel, like maybe you're in charge of the suppliers for the whole country of one of those smaller countries, Let's just say you're in charge of one of the major ports that imports, cocaine for all of New Mexico, for example, and you just happen to be in charge of that, but you're not the leader of the cartel. That's a pretty small crime. That's forgivable, is what I'm saying. That's forgivable. So you come here with your family to escape all that. Hopefully not bring it with you. I'm just saying, let's say you don't want that good cartel money and connections, and, that makes life so much more fun and worth, and enjoyable, and it protects you. Let's say you're willing to give that all up for some reason, and you just want to move here. Yeah, that's no problem. You just slip through the border. Just walk across the border. So it's not fascism. It's not fascism if you could just move here that easily as a leader of the cartel, kind of, not the leader, just the guy who has a very high level position in the but not the leader. Cartels don't have leaders anyway. It's more decentralized than that. Why would they just want to have one person at the top that you could just kill? Then all the whole empire would collapse if you had just what? No, it's not like fascism where if you have one leader at the top, you could just kill that one individual and then the whole country collapses. That's the stupidest thing about fascism in the whole world that I could think of. That's why it didn't last very long. That's why it had an expiration at 1945, because it was just all up to one charismatic dude. One guy talking into microphones, and then as soon as he's gone, that's it. That's the end of the fascist regime. Okay, so the second guy couldn't take command, couldn't just continue where he left off. No, because that's not what it is. That's not what a dictatorship is. A dictatorship is where the one dude is running the whole show, or at least making the first. He's the arrowhead or the spearhead. There's people obviously following his order, but without him, there's nothing to know what's cool. He was the trendsetter. He was like people looked to him. It's like, what are we doing today? What are we doing? Oh, okay. Well, he told us what we're doing today. Okay, cool. But without that, it all goes away. So that's why fascism doesn't always work for very, you need somebody who's just as charismatic, just take their plate. No. Anyway, so that's why fascism is bad, and also, the only reason it's bad is because of how fragile it is. That's the only thing that makes it bad, is how easily it goes. Because of how easy it is to get rid of. That's what makes it beautiful and fragile, and that's really the only bad thing I could think of about it. Other than that, it protects the people that live in it. It protects everybody that lives in it. If you're born into it, you're protected. But if you're a traitor, obviously, we got a problem. But so that's really the only bad thing I can think about, is how fragile and beautiful it is. It only lasts as long as one person's life. How beautiful. But anyway, I'm not trying to crack myself up. That's not funny. That's not. The point is, we're done talking about fascism. That's the one thing wrong with it. Oh yeah. That's why we have. Because some people are against fascism, and I guess I am to some extent. taken over. Like, let's say a new type of fascism takes over that we don't like, that I don't like, or that somebody, like people decide, like not everybody was into the whole Hitler thing. So let's say you wanted that to end. You kill the guy, you kill Hitler, it goes away. Boom. It's over with. Anyway, yeah. So that's why America has the Second Amendment. Second Amendment allows you to just kill the dude in charge. So if there's a new fascist leader, then it is okay. I get technically that is not against the law. Maybe I'm perceiving the Second Amendment. It's to give you the right to defend yourself against a totalitarian government. So how would that work, though, if the courts are also from the same government? So let's say that happens. Let's say some big politician becomes the next Hitler in America, and it's all of a sudden fascism. And then one guy just decides, hey, I'm just going to kill him. We don't like what he's doing. It's fascism. It's totalitarianism. Enough people would have to agree for you to get away. Like, I think that's what they did with Lincoln. I think that's what the guy who shot Lincoln thought. He thought that he would get praised for it. He was this is true, I think, from what I read. The dude who killed Lincoln was expecting himself to become famous and loved. Even he was already kind of a well-known actor. See, that's his problem. He was already famous. You can't get famous for two things. Now he's infamous. He did the same thing Kanye did. He was like, I'm a good actor. Anyway, I think that's what he thought. He thought, well, I was just going against a fascist regime. So I don't know why they had to hunt him. Actually, I think they weren't. If he had just turned himself in and it went to trial, went to court, I wonder what his defense would have been. If I was his lawyer, I think his defense should have just been the Second Amendment. I was just shooting somebody that was being fascist. That Lincoln guy, man, freeing the slave and the Confederate, whatever, the Civil War could be perceived as, something that a fascist would do. And then if you shoot the guy that did that, I think that's a pretty reasonable defense. You can't set up a law that's that crazy, and not expect people to cash in on it. How crazy of a law is that to put in your country? The whole fabric of your country is founded on that's the second rule, that you could just shoot the guy in charge if you perceive that they have too much power. Of course we're going to have people kill the president. That's what you're asking them to do as part of the law. That's what you're making it legal as the whole fabric of why we're here. So I think, I wasn't there at the time. If I was a South Sider in the Civil War, maybe I would have seen Lincoln as the Trump of his time. But that wasn't very popular, it turns out. Not a lot of people really supported that. I guess that's just how it sounds according to Wikipedia. That's why he had to go on the run. It's not so easy. Like if you did kill Hitler, you would have had to kill him after everybody was already going after him for it to be perceived as a correct thing to do. So I don't know, man. History is very tough to get on the right side of. But he thought he was when he shot Lincoln. It was a very pussy way of... Because Lincoln, he was just watching a play. Like, he wasn't a controversial guy if he had no worries of security, that he was just watching a play and there wasn't a whole parade of like, clearly the whole country didn't hate this guy. I mean, that's how it was for Hitler too, though, so who knows? If you killed Hitler before he killed himself, like, you know, at the sweet spot of history, you would have had to kill him at the perfect time for it to be seen as a heroic move, because before that, he was just seen as the leader of Germany. And they didn't really have a problem with him until his crimes against humanity started leaking out. So anyway, the Second Amendment, man, it's a controversial thing to have. It's like, really just going to let people just not only have guns, that part is already pretty crazy, that you just let people just have guns, as many as they want. Okay. Next, you're going to allow them to use it on the person in charge of the whole country if they are too crazy? If the citizen thinks that the guy in charge is too crazy with power and has too much of it, you're just going to allow, that's the law. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. And look how many presidents have been shot, maimed, you know? A lot of them have been shot because of, yeah, it's a crazy country, man. But anyway, it's either that or you got to pick a side. And so one is, they're all fragile. It seems like everything's fragile, even if it has a huge power structure behind it, you know, like the American military. That's the elephant in the room that I was leaving out. I was completely dodging the whole question of, there's this huge military that you'd have to go against to kill the president. Well, not really. Just the Secret Service, not the whole military. So the Second Amendment, you could sidestep that. That's how these leftists, they think they're so smart. They think the whole argument just crumbles against the Second Amendment when you bring up that you think you're going to have a chance against the military. It's like, well, it's not the whole military. It's just the part of it that's assigned to protect the dude in charge of the military. Once you kill the dude in charge of the military, the whole military stops doing what they're told to do. Unless it's like a specific order. Even if I'm dead, but after a certain point, they're going to run out of gas and have to go back to their bases and be like, okay, well, we're no longer getting instructions because they killed the guy. So the Second Amendment, it's legal. And then that guy will probably become the next guy in charge. So anyway, that's a stupid argument against the Second Amendment. Oh, you think you have a chance? Your little pistol, your little 9mm pistol is going to go against drones and tanks and Humvees and aircraft, F-16s, experimental aircrafts. You think you got a chance? Like, no, but I'm not. That's not for me. That's for other countries. I am using the Second Amendment, which means I only have to kill the guy in charge. I don't have to go against the military. Why would I go against the military when he's not? That's not what's standing in the way of the dude. What are you talking about? The military. I would go against whatever's the weakest link in his security detail, which sometimes isn't that much. Sometimes it's only like one pane of glass. Sometimes it's not even that much if you go to a debate. If he's the incumbent at a debate and you just somehow sneak a gun in there, it's not that hard to kill the president, even in today's time. So the Second Amendment, it's still very easy to act upon. Anyway, I think I explained that long. I think I got the point, is that That's a stupid... So anybody who makes that argument against the Second Amendment, so you have all these guns in case the government becomes fat, like that's gonna happen. And yeah, I can see that being ridiculous, as if you're gonna be the one who actually uses your personal gun. Of course, that's absurd. It's all theoretical. But theoretically, yeah, it would just take one gun to end the fascist government. So yes, that's why it's still there. So that's also why you could argue for theoretically why anybody could just be able to have guns. At least it's a good argument for why we can't just take them. Why we can't just not allow any guns. You're just not allow... So only the people that have guns are the people that are taking their commands from the leader. Obviously, that's not good. So we need some citizens that are detached from the fascist. We need at least some. So, okay, maybe not me personally. So anyway, it's a stupid... Yeah, so that's the point I'm making, is that these smart leftists who are just repeating the same dumb thing that they heard from Anderson Cooper or Bill Maher probably said this too. You think you're going to go against the military might? I don't do impressions, or else I would. If I could do even the slightest hint of a Bill Maher impression, I guess I would, but I can't. He's a pretty smart guy, but it's hack to say that that argument against the Second Amendment. So anyway, there's better arguments to be said against like the one I made earlier about how it's crazy that's even if it was like, even if you did kill the next Hitler, that's still like, okay, so that's gonna hold up in court. Because you'd have to somehow not get killed by the military. Let's say you do kill the guy. You'd have to somehow get away from what you just did. You would definitely get killed. But let's say you didn't. The dude who killed Lincoln, he got away with it for a long time. He got away with it. He jumped into the Potomac. And he got caught on a farm. I can't believe that farm gave him, like... Obviously, it wasn't very popular to have killed Lincoln because he wasn't a fascist. He just wasn't, or else his regime would have collapsed and the South would have taken over. The rebels would have been, well, that's not how it worked. It wasn't just a one dude's decision. Clearly, it was a lot of people that was like the majority of the country kind of agreed. They're like, no, yeah, it was okay what he did. So we don't like that you just killed him. That's not cool. He wasn't a fascist. So I don't really get it. How could you even become a fascist in this country with the rules set up the way they are? Because you'd have to be very popular on the internet. And there's nobody that popular on the internet who's, as an individual, has enough influence, besides even Kanye. Kanye's not even powerful enough to be the next fascist leader. So I think that idea, like other old ideas, it's just gone. It's not possible anymore. It wasn't even possible in the 40s. It's kind of possible in the North Korea, certain parts of Asia. That doesn't count because that's communism overseen. They're allowing them to be a little bit fascist because they're bigger. So fascism is so delicate that it needs to cling on the belly of a larger entity that is also, that's a superpower. That's for it to be stable for even a couple generations. It's only been around for a couple generations. That's how fragile it is. So it's probably not going to last. It's just kind of, with technology, it's tough. So if Kanye can't even be the next fascist leader, I don't know who the hell can, because he's very eloquent. And Trump obviously failed. He wasn't even, I don't know if he was trying. He just golfs all day. He ain't trying to be. Hitler didn't really golf in his off time. I think he didn't really go around doing leisurely stuff like golfing. You know, he watched the Olympics. He gave people medals he shook people's hands. But as it ramped up, he wasn't just hanging out with celebrities, with Kid Rock. I don't know the guy. He was always amped up on something, man. He was taking tons of drugs, man. Taking heroin. I don't want to like, you know, defamation, put like bad. I don't want to talk shit about him, or like, I don't want to like say anything defamatory, you know, like, oh, he did all these drugs, but like, I'm saying that in a good way. I'm saying that in a way that's like, he had better things to do than hang around on golf courses, hanging out with Kid Rock. Like, he had to take all these drugs because he had a lot of responsibilities, is what that gets to. Because if you're taking all these drugs every day, it's not for fun, is what I'm saying. Nobody's taking that many drugs. If to get out of bed, you need to take methamphetamine, and then you have to take it again later in the day, and then you have to take benzos and to get to sleep, and other crazy things to get to sleep, like heroin. If you need super hard drugs that kill you if you overdose, and that also kill you if you withdraw, pretty much, that leave these horrible side effects, and you pretty much are an addict for life if you do them, you're doing them because you're a specific person. You just, not to like paint it, like for me, like some people just need to be on a lot of drugs. It's not that simple, you know, like, it's not every day, but like for me, I can only talk about me. Hitler, I'm just trying to be like, okay, I get why he had to take, and it wasn't for fun to take like heavy, you know, heroin, meth. But I can understand, now that we know more about these chemicals, what they do, you know, you don't want to be taking some of those. Some of them are still totally fine, even in today's, you know, let's say you have a heavy workload. Meth is perfectly still just as good as it was back then. I mean, so anyway, and then to get to sleep, people still take drugs to get to sleep. My personal story is I need drugs to get through life, you know? In any meaningful way, I need drugs to get through life, like to have any positive influence on the world, or even to take it in. I need to be on drugs. Or it could just be McDonald's. McDonald's is a drug. It's a drug, you know. Food is a drug. It's addictive. It's an addict. I'm a food addict, kind of. No, you know. You could say not as bad as some people, so that means I'm not. No, it's not what that means. I guess I just say it with a hesitant. I'm very hesitant when I call myself a food addict, because it sounds like, really you're a food addict. And yeah, it's not like that's all I am. I'm addicted to many things, pretty much anything that gives you that pleasure, that feeling. It's not just food, you know. I'm a poly addict. I'm addicted to many things. I need like strong stimulants to get me to even start the day. And then to end the day, I just crash. I don't ever like go to sleep like, okay, it's been a good day, time to go to sleep, time to brush my teeth and set my, put on my pajama. No, I end the day by just crashing into bed. I just go into bed and go, well, I guess I'm sleeping at this point. And then I can't stop it. It's a crash. You can't just be like, no, maybe I'll go to sleep. No, I can't help when I'm going to, I can't help the crash. I don't ever set my bedtime is what I'm trying to say. I don't ever go like, maybe I should go to bed a little early tonight. Well, that would be nice, but that's not a freedom that I have because I don't have access to Ambien or another hypnotic heroin or, something else that would knock me out. Another synesthetic, whatever, anesthetic. But I would need something. It would have to be administered by a doctor. So I am one of those people that need drugs to get through life healthily. Like, that sounds kind of counterintuitive. It's like to live at my most healthiest, like to, let's say, set a bedtime, that would take drugs, which would have to be the right ones at the right dose, which would mean that a doctor would have to be in charge of administering it, or else it's drug abuse. So it's either I gotta pick something, either I don't take drugs and I just crash and don't have proper restful sleep because of sleep apnea, because I won't have enough time to put my mask on because I'll just be crashed out. Or I could take some kind of drug and just improvise and do it myself, and I'll probably get it wrong. It'll be the wrong drug, the wrong dose. I'll die. So anyway, that's a complicated thing. So I like to live healthily, like Hitler. I would need Nazi doctor, like some kind of doctor to look after me. Let's be honest. Some of the Nazi doctors were pretty good at what they did. Some of them were psychopaths, like super terrible doctors. But other ones were actually really good doctors. They just happened to be on that team. They just happened to work for a fascist. But then once he died, they went back to, well, some of them just got killed. Some of them obviously just, got hung for being Nazis. But others just went right back to being doctors. They were like, okay, we're no longer Nazis, but I'm still, I'm not in trouble, thankfully, because I wasn't that close to him. But I'm going right back to what I was doing. I'm being a good doctor, and now I have the guilt of being a Nazi on my back for the rest of my life. Oh, and my kids and their kids are going to look back and be like, oh, was your grandpa a Nazi? He's like, yeah, of course. No, he went against the whole regime, and I'm somehow still here. Yeah, he was a rebel in the Nazi Germany. Yeah, in World War II, he just completely just avoided being a Nazi. Yeah, and didn't get killed. Yeah. Because they had the Second Amendment back then. Yeah, he just killed Hitler. Yeah, he was the one person who was a great... Yeah, he was the one guy that wasn't a Nazi. Yeah, great. Yeah. What a dumb question. And so, no... So that's your question? Was he of course he was a Nazi. And? Oh, so you don't like me now because my grandpa was a Nazi? What the hell does that have to do with anything? Sometimes there's a fascist leader that tells you how we're gonna dress for a few years, then he gets killed, or he kills himself. Even better. Whatever. Sometimes they kill themselves. That's the most weird thing ever. That's how fragile. Fascism is. Sometimes it just kills itself before you can even kill the guy in charge of the whole thing. But what's not fragile is hate towards Nazis. That has outlived Nazis. Hate towards Nazis is going stronger than ever. Not a lot of Nazis. Nazism in its real, like, it died when Hitler died, because it's a it pretty much, it doesn't really outlive the individual that was the actual leader, in my opinion, because there hasn't been, like, as soon as Hitler died, there really wasn't any new things coming out. It was like when the Beatles split, there wasn't any new Beatles songs. You know, like, once the band broke up, there wasn't the Beatles anymore. You can't just pretend that, oh, you know, the neo-Beatles. It's like, no, you're either... doesn't really make... It's not really a good analogy, because, like, the fans of the Beatles were not the Beatles. Whereas, you know, that's not a good analogy. It's not a complete analogy. It's a fine analogy for what the point I'm making, though, is that once the people that were creating the content decided to stop making the content, it ended. There wasn't any new Beatles music, you know? Just like how when Hitler died and the war ended, there wasn't really any new Nazi stuff. It was over. They were just recycling the same old BS, like the same old, like, we get it, we've seen that. What's new, though? We get that you like it. We get that you miss him, but he's gone. You worshipped him. You still worship him. He's gone. He's been gone for multiple generations. It's over. So people that call themselves Nazis today, they're just plain pretend. They're just, you know, they're LARPing, which I don't see anything wrong with that on its own. Just LARPing? Okay, yeah, fine. Do whatever. Dress up however you want to dress up. But it's over. Nazism is over. And so if you think you're a Nazi, it's been done. Like, you're just saying something like, oh, you're the new Hitler then? I mean, who's the one? I don't know. It's like saying that you're the Beatles. It's like, nope. Unless you're John Lennon. Unless John Lennon comes out of his grave and reincarnates. You know? That's how I look at Nazism, and I compare it to the Beatles. The Beatles are over. No matter how many people love the Beatles and pretend that they're still a band, they're not still a band. Okay. I think so the point I'm trying to make is, if you're funny, you're pretty much funny for your whole life. So I love that about life. I love that about the world. Like Chris D'Elia, that's the point, is he is funny. There's people that were like, oh, it's just in comedy circles, these pretentious comedy people that, like, these gatekeepers on comedy, these people that aren't really talented themselves, so they just comment on other people not being talented. They go, no, he's not talented. He doesn't deserve this to be on stage. Well, he is talented. He's definitely funny. That's something you can't really deny. Has there not been any evidence that he's at least funny? Like, you could not like it, but you can't deny that Chris D'Elia is indeed a funny person. You just can't. There's enough evidence against you that you're basically just going against a huge herd of people, and you would look foolish, because that herd will stampede you. This is not a matter of opinion. This is a matter of you getting stampeded by being outnumbered in a match of strength, not of wit, not of a taste of. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying the numbers are against you. There's enough content out there that he's funny. So can't deny that. You could not like somebody who's funny. That's completely for you to do. You're completely allowed to not like somebody who's funny, but you can't, you'll be wrong if you say that they're not funny. You know? So if you at least, like there's people that I don't like, but I will say they're funny. There's not that many that I don't like that are funny. Because the funniness is almost enough to redeem. But that's not almost. It's not enough, but it's almost enough. At least in some moments for me to... Because people are complicated, I think that's what we kind of touched on a little bit in this episode. Is like how, people could do horrendous things, but then you see like, well, they're still doing something I like. They're still doing something that is relating to that I find funny. For example, like Cosby is still funny. He's still a funny person. So that's what people wrestle with. They wrestle with this complicated fact about like, well, I don't like this guy, so therefore he can't be funny if he's a bad person. Like, he can't be funny if I don't like him. People even protested Louis C.K. a few years ago. Like, that's the hill that they decided to die. Like, they decided to make it their identity that they're like up in arms against Louis C.K. It's like, really? You're just such a beta. I don't know. Whenever I see that type of handiwork, that type of behavior by a man, it's usually a man that doesn't want to stop getting laid. They know that if they go against women as like a whole, that they won't get laid, and they don't like that. So they, that's all that is. But they're usually, so that's a sign of weakness. And women don't like weakness. It's the dumb ones are the only ones you're gonna appease. The ones that are like, oh, even if you are like looked at as evil, even if you applaud, Louis, and as a joke applaud bad things that happened, like whatever, even if you're perceived, I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess what I'm talking about is it's how you actually are. It's how you actually behave. If you're actually abusive, that's something to write somebody off. I don't know. But even then, they might be funny. Who's not funny and abusive? Here's something to tie a bow. Let's tie a bow on this episode by giving a counter example. We've given good examples of people that are bad people and funny. How about who are, and I'm not even saying, I don't even know if Chris D'Elia, is he a bad person? I don't know. But I'm not saying he is or isn't. I'm saying he's funny. That's how I define that guy. But here's an example of somebody that should not be mentioned in the same, that's not funny and kind of a bad person. But not wholly, he's not only a bad person. He probably also has some redeeming qualities. Steven Crowder. That guy is not funny, and he's known, there's some evidence that he's quite a abusive person, that he's very toxic and conducts himself in a way that causes people torment. Like he does what's called emotional abuse. That's like a new thing. They didn't really call it anything. It wasn't really a thing to like call something emotional abuse. Like it was either physical or nothing. There was no such thing as like verbal abuse. Like, okay, I don't like just the way that you're talking to me, the way that you treat me verbally, but not hit, but you don't hit me. That's now we consider that abusive. Just talking to somebody the wrong way could be seen. So anyway, so he's that. He does that. That's not the point. I really, I guess the only reason it matters is because then what else does he have to redeem himself? Because he's not funny. He's just good at like talking about politics. He's just like, he's kind of good at talking about politics, I guess. That's about it. But whoopee. But he's not that funny, though. I don't know. It's just something I have to. Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm sure some people find him funny, but like then when you see him compared to a real comedian, like somebody that's like only good at comedy, they're not good at like talking about politics. They don't work out, you know. Like most people that are comedians, like real comedians, that's pretty much all they do. That's all they're good at. They found that they are pretty much losers at everything else. But that's not true. I mean, you know, they have a low self-esteem. That's definitely true. They don't think highly of themselves generally. They're not really that amazing at other things. But there's exceptions to that rule, because they could be good at marketing. But that's not the ones I'm talking about, like Louis C.K. He's obviously good at comedy, but he's also good at like editing, you know? He knows about like video editing. He knows about like the nuances. I guess it's just because he's Jewish. I mean, I forgot about that. There's that exception to the rule with everything that Jewish people, if you have Jewish DNA, more specifically, I don't give a fuck about the religion. If you have Jewish DNA, you could be good at pretty much anything you put your heart to, except for running a marathon, you know, like fighting somebody. But like anything that takes wit, anything that takes creativity, yeah, they're the exception. But anyway, fuck that. Fuck Louis. He's the exception. Most comics, like that are real comics, that's pretty much all they're good at. So they might as well do what they're good at. And compared to them, Steven Crowder doesn't hold a candle. Chris D'Elia holds a big candle. Anyway, holds a big candle. He's too good though. He's too big of a name to go on that show. I was thinking of Dave Landau. Dave Landau is who I was just talking about, who's only, from what I gather, good at, all he does is he's a comic. I don't want to diminish him by saying that's all he's good at, but that's how he at least presents himself. He's just one person that I'm thinking of. But pretty much all of them, like Mark Normand is a perfect example. He's obviously a genius comic. He's brilliant. He's knocked it out of the park. He's like a Mozart. He's a Picasso. He's a Picasso of comedy. You can't be better than him at comedy. But with other stuff, what does he know? He doesn't know shit about fill in the blank. He's not like well-rounded. I don't really know. I don't really think he is. I think he's kind of like, you know, I wouldn't count on him to like fix my car. I don't fucking know. I just know that he's good. He's not good at Bitcoin. I think that's where I heard that he lost money on Bitcoin. So that's where it's like, okay, even though he's really good at comedy, don't let that fool you into thinking that he's infallible to other skills in life, like Bitcoin. What is he? But like, because that's a trick that sometimes happens. But no, it's not true. That I don't know if that, but it is true if they're Jewish. He's not Jewish. Ari Shaffir is good at comedy. He's also probably pretty good at Bitcoin. If I asked, like, he probably doesn't have any Bitcoin. That's being good at Bitcoin. Mark Normand bought Bitcoin. That was the wrong move. He bought it at the wrong time, I'm saying. Like, Ari Shaffir had better things to do than to learn about Bitcoin in 2012, whatever. So that's why he doesn't have any. And also, he's doing way better financially because of that fact also as well. Because he didn't get involved in jumping into the bandwagon and buying Bitcoin at the top. But anyway, I respect both of them as comedians and as individuals who live their... I don't fuck. I respect them as people. I don't care if they lose money on Bitcoin. If someone loses money on Bitcoin, I respect them even more because that's a human... If you were one of the people that actually made money on Bitcoin, yeah, it's something I guess that's interesting, but I don't like you. I don't like you as a person just because of that fact. Like if you win the lottery on Bitcoin, you're gonna feel like $1 million. You're gonna want to tell everybody, "Hey, I made a shitload on Bitcoin." And then people's gonna be like, "Okay, screw you. I don't like you. What's that do for me that you made a bunch of money on Bitcoin?" Oh, okay, you're gonna tell me. How's that help me? So you won the lottery, and that makes you feel good. So you're telling people that you won the lottery, basically. That's what Bitcoin is. Because it's not like it was a great financial decision. It was pretty much you won the lottery. So don't brag. Don't tell me about it. Unless like something I could get in on, which it isn't. Bitcoin is over. Bitcoin, yeah, if you could go back if you could turn back time. Yeah, everybody would be a billionaire if they could go back to any time in the past. Even one day in the past, you could buy 1,000 contracts for options on pretty much any stock, any big traded stock. Like, we're going to buy 1,000 contracts on Tesla because I know it's going to go down tomorrow by just a couple cents. And you could become a millionaire just by knowing if Tesla's going to go down by half a cent. But it has to be by tomorrow. So it's that, you have to know a very specific piece of information, but it's not something that takes more than a day to know to become a millionaire. Bitcoin, we don't know if it's going to go up or down. Like, we don't know. I think it's good to have some money in Bitcoin, but to just buy it as if it's a lottery ticket, that's as dumb as buying a lottery ticket. It's the same thing as buying a lottery. Not really. But it's like if you're putting all your money in it, that's like buying that's stupid. You're not going to put... It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. But if you are somebody that's not completely bad with money and actually isn't hopelessly, desperate when it comes to money, and that's not what you're looking at it as, and you're looking at it as a long-term thing, then yeah, it's probably good to have 5% in Bitcoin. And if I have to explain more of what that even means, then you're not qualified to buy Bitcoin. If you don't even know what I mean by that, by 5%, then you don't have enough money. How about that, to buy Bitcoin? And I know that sounds mean, but it's true. Because even if you did put all your money in Bitcoin and it went up to $1 million tomorrow, okay, now you're some guy with $0 that all of a sudden acquires, I don't know, 50, 100,000. To you, that's going to be life-changing money, and it will change your life for the worse. You're just going to spend it on drugs. It's going to go away very quickly. Not on drugs. You're going to spend it on whatever, rent, but it's going to go away, and it'll be like, wait, where did it go? Oh, I just looked at it as money, so what do you do with money? You spend it. Oh, I guess I learned that I'm bad with money. So, yeah, that's why I don't recommend that just somebody off the street should buy Bitcoin. Even if it goes, unless you're using it as a currency in a third world country, which some do, which is who I'm not talking to on an everyday, because I don't run that type of company. I still do talk to those people pretty often. There's some people in this world that actually do rely on cryptocurrency for everyday things. I don't know how. I don't know how the hell they do that, but they do somehow actually rely on. I don't know. There's a few countries that actually use crypto for as money, not just as like, oh, I hope I get rich. Oh man, we'll invest in Bitcoin. No, they don't invest. They actually use it, and then they go, okay, I have money. Now I'm going to spend some of my money on food, I guess. They just look at it as currency. That's what it's called. It's cryptocurrency. It is not used as currency. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Bitcoin, not really used as currency. And that hasn't really hit it hasn't become obvious to me until right now what people mean when they say that it's a store of value, because it ain't used as money. It's just like this speculative asset. So anyway, it's a boring place. We're not ending on a very interesting point here with the Bitcoin talk. Bitcoin, that's a good way to deflate any conversations by talking about Bitcoin. Yeah, because even if you do win big on it, the reality of that is taxes. It's like, okay, so how much money did you make on Bitcoin? 300K. It's like, okay, what'd you do with it? I bought Dogecoin. It's like, okay, what did Dogecoin do since you bought it? Oh, it went down 80%, so now I don't have anything. Now I have like 30K. Now I have 30K off the 300K they made with Bitcoin. So, okay, well, you owe $100,000 in taxes. So cough up the money. So, well, I don't have that because I spent it on Dogecoin, and that went down. And so now I guess I'll sell the Dogecoin to offset the gains. It's like, yeah, but that was a year ago. No, that was a different. We're in a different tax year, so gotta pay the taxes. So it's pretty rough. Even if you do make a shitload of money on crypto, you gotta set aside the taxes, because even if it's not in U.S. dollars, you still owe the taxes on the crypto gains. So you gotta make sure it's in a crypto that's not gonna lose. So that's money's not easy to retain wealth is more impressive than earning wealth, in my opinion. So anyway, it's been a fun. This is episode 83 of the 10 Fire Power Show. Here again.